All right, everybody. Hello.
Nicholas, how are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. Matt, how's the week been for you?
Oh, it's been fine. Uh, nothing much happening. Not really watching the news. Anything going on?
I did the ostrich strategy. I put my head in the sand for the whole week, so I don't know. Anything special happened?
I
Melissa?
think I think we're better off with the ostrich in the sand kind of thing.
Well, we've got a great guest today, but before we go there, let's get the show started. All right, everybody, this is Nico with eStreamly, the company that gets you live stream and shoppable video on your site, social media, email, SMS, wherever you are, the video is shoppable. I'm here with my great friend Matt from E6 Marketing, the company that gets you on QVC and HSN. And we have this amazing special guest today, Melissa Daniels, a person that I met at eTail West, actually a show that I was on a couple weeks ago, and Lena came on the pod, and maybe she's coming back. And Melissa is actually a writer for a fantastic news article. Magazine. And but before I start to butcher the whole story of Melissa, why don't you just start introducing by yourself?
Thank you so much for having me today. It's great to get to know both of you and have this conversation. Yeah, my name is Melissa Daniels. I'm a senior reporter at Modern Retail, where I have focused on covering the e-commerce and retail industries for the past 3 years. But I come from a line of business reporting and digital media with some expertise in nonprofit and brand social, as well as just writing, and I've worked for small daily newspapers in the middle of nowhere, and I've worked for the Associated Press, so I've kind of done it all on the media side.
Amazing, Matt. We have a real journalist with us. Amazing.
It is amazing.
Elevating in evil.
We
Matt, why
are.
don't you get started by telling us what the show is about?
Yes, so thank you very much, Melissa. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you everyone for tuning in. This is called the VCommerce podcast. As Nicholas said at the beginning of the show, we're available on a lot of different streaming apps and different audio and visual mediums. But this show is all about video commerce. What is video commerce? That's the platform that started with direct response television, graduated into QVC and HSN and home shopping, and now it's available everywhere and anywhere: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, website sales. So we talk about video commerce. We concentrate a little bit on the retail side, a little bit on the digital and e-com side, but we try to spend most of our conversations talking about video commerce. And Melissa, I love, the elephant in the room, as Nicholas and I kind of dodged at the top of the show, is what's happened this week. It's been the tariffs, and the tariffs have occupied everyone's mind and everyone's news stream for the last 7 days plus. And just this morning, I saw, the U.S. put a tariff on, extended their tariff size on China. China extended their tariff size on the U.S. It's tariffs are going left and right and all over the place. It's something that everyone has to consider and everyone has to talk about and think about moving forward, especially if you work in retail or e-com. But my opinion, my point of view right away is not so much Nicholas keeping your head in the sand. Obviously, that was a joke, but my thought is to stay the course. This is such a volatile sign. I haven't looked at my retirement plan yet in the last 2 weeks. I know others have. It's so volatile. How do you know what's going on? How do you know where it's going? How do you plan for it? These are things that everyone has to think about. But I hope that everyone stays calm. And my advice is, it sounds, I don't know, it sounds naive, but stay the course as best you can. Try not to knee jerk and react to something that you can't come back from. Melissa, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's good advice for a lot of brands that are operating in this environment. When you're running a brand and you're trying to think about, what's happening next quarter, as well as 3 or 4 quarters out, the uncertainty around what your goods could cost, the uncertainty around what could raise prices in your supply chain. is going to hamper all of that planning if you try to predict what's going on. So I think staying the course is really good advice. That said, there's going to be times that I think brands have to pivot and make decisions on how they can sort of prepare for uncertainty, right? Do you have a rainy day fund, so to speak? Where can you trim in your budget to make sure that if costs do go up, you're in a place to absorb that? And I think we're already going to see price increases. I mean, at the end of the day, all of this means big changes on what it means to be a consumer. I saw one headline that said the era of cheap goods is over, right? And I think that could be very true based on how companies respond.
Yeah, I agree. The statement that the era of cheap good is over. In a way, it's good sometimes to reduce a little bit consumption, because are we not in an overconsumption kind of world, right? So it's not maybe
True that.
not a bad thing in a way, but not that I wish that to anyone. But for me, the way I think about this is I've seen a lot of things on social media where people, like e-com people, blaming other folks to adjust and have like tariff line where we just heard that the tariff were actually posed or anything. I just want to say, it's there's the narrative out there, like what you hear on the news, what you hear from the White House and all that. And then you've got the reality on the ground of supply chain disruptions and stuff like that. And I will tell you that I know a bunch of people that had to, on day one, almost, they got tariff on their product, on their good, because they were transiting from different ports that were not like directly from China, so they were not considered goods that were on the sea. And so when you think of like product that you bought like 3-4 months ago, and now you get like 10, 15, 20 containers that are crossing the border, and now they get a 30, 40, 60% tariff on that. And then you've got a couple people online saying, oh, this is like a scam, whatever. I just want to remind everyone that before like finger pointing at brands and like how they adjust and all that, we have to realize that there are real businesses with real complexity, real supply chain. And I just want to make sure that we won't over quickly judge anyone on those tariffs, because not everyone has clean cut supply chain where the things there has been disruption, real disruption in the market. So that was my thought on this whole tariff thing. But let's move on to something a little bit more nicer, friendlier, more pleasant. Melissa, you wrote a really fantastic story about Oura, and because they did something quite special that Matt was actually also seeing. So what is that about?
Yeah, this is was a really fun story that we published on modernretail.co last week. I spoke with Oura, the wearable ring that tracks health metrics, about their first live shopping experiment happening on QVC. I thought this was really interesting because Oura has had a really great foray into retail and omni-channel in the US recently. They're in Best Buy, they're at Target, and I've talked to them about that approach. But when they think about who their customer is, they're seeing a lot more opportunity to reach more women because of some of the health metrics that the ring can track related to stress or menstrual cycles. They're also seeing that they don't necessarily have as many customers in the Midwest. They're very much this kind of like techie product that hit on the coast and maybe with more urban and higher income audiences. So QVC made a lot of sense for them because it was an opportunity to show their product to a new audience.
I love that, Matt. Don't you think it's really interesting to hear like, okay, well, they're thinking from a real strategy as a channel perspective, like, hey, where are the audience we haven't reached out to? What can we do with it? I think it's very refreshing to hear that from that standpoint. And it's also really showcasing the power of QVC. Like everyone say, oh, QVC is dead and everything. But look, a brand like Oura, which is like a very, like couple years ago, they were still raising on Kickstarter. Now it's a $5 billion valuation brand. And here they are, going to QVC, the old model, and being successful at it. I don't know, Matt, you were on the back of the scene. So what was the story there?
Yeah, ironically, I was in the green room for much of that evening last Thursday when this product launched on QVC, and I was asking other vendors and other guests about the success of the product, and it was very successful on that day. And the kicker kind of is they did not have any discounting. The only package, the only retail or value driven part of the offer at QVC was an extra charger. And you don't really need an extra charger for that particular product because I think it charges for 18 hours once it's fully charged. So that was really the only kicker, where QVC is really, their middle name is value, and discounting is a big part of their success. They launched a brand new brand as a today's special value. This ring that we're talking about, the today's special value, is the most important product of the day. It's on about 8 times or 6 to 8 times in a given 24-hour span. And they were talking to an older consumer, an older female consumer, and the ring is more male oriented. At least it's a thicker ring, from a fashion standpoint, and it's a fitness tracker. And QVC's customer definitely buys fitness products, and they're definitely engaged in the fitness world, but I wouldn't call them fitness fanatics. And yet, despite this, it was very successful. So I love the fact that they, one article I read, and it might have been yours, Melissa, there was a quote saying that we wanted to test QVC. And I think the test was successful. This older demographic, Midwest demographic, as you said, is relatable to it. They're savvy. They know what the product is, and they've responded to it in an impulse purchase kind of a way, which is where we all are in video commerce. So I love the success. I love seeing what it did.
You say it was not so much value because they had just an extra charger, but that under 104% tariff, that charger is probably quite a nice gift to have now. But without saying more, I know, Matt, you had an awesome first story that you wanted to bring on. Why don't you get us started there?
Yeah, and I can't wait for both of your opinions on this. So I read an article this morning about social influencers and working with brands on the social commerce site, and that's something that we always talk about here on the VCommerce podcast. And I got some great stats out of this article, and I wanted to hear your opinions on it, and not realizing there is a challenge with this that I never thought about. So 12%, only 12% of creators produce content full time. 2/3 of those creators want to learn more about the brand and more about the KPI of that brand, the key performance indicators. Yet there's a communication gap between the brands and the influencers right now, which is frustrating on the creator side. So this article quoted as saying there's 5 key pillars for brands on social commerce: engagement, growth, reach, conversion, and content and creativity. 5 pillars. From the creator end, it's all about engagement, content, and creativity. And they're missing a part. They're missing a key element in between the company and the influencer in communicating their story to their followers. So, Nicolas, this is something we talk about all the time. The power of the influencer. There's a gap here that's really missing.
Yeah, I think it's, is it, for me it's missing, but it's also part of the way people are incentivized in this whole system, right? So back in the day, it was all about impression, right? The ad model, the traditional model in e-com was about impression, so marketers were pushing for that. And then here you go, they found that influencer can get those impressions. And so all of a sudden, there hasn't been a mind shift of like, well, but those influencers, I need to pay them. I need to be in that social game. I want to get more from that. And can I get more sales? And so there was some gimmick and some lot of work around, like, can I actually track the sales, do affiliates? So that whole affiliate business started to pop in and everything. And as that affiliate market started to pop in, remember, like a couple of years ago, it was still just the TikTok not the Instagram of the world, the Facebook and all that, which are, hard to track in a way, right? And so that moved on. But then I feel that at this time, it was all about the creator saying, hey, I creating audience is very hard, it's very valuable. I need to get a high ticket thing for the post that I'm creating. And all I care about is the engagement. I want my audience to be true to me, that they love what I'm sharing. If there's sales, great, but that's not really what the primary motive was. And I think this kind of changed when TikTok got in the game, because now all of a sudden they were very transparent. Where, hey, as a creator, you can see that how much product I sold on platform and everything. And so all of a sudden we started to see a shift where some of those creators were more like incentive based, and some creators saying, I'm totally 100% getting into the click-through rate and the actual purchasing. So I think it did change that narrative, and I think it did make brands feel a little better with this marketing. But I do think that there's still a disconnect between what the brand wants and then what the creator wants. And yeah, but it's I think it's a given. But I think there's gaps that are starting to bridge. But I know, Melissa, you've been actually writing an article on one brand particularly, and their impact and how they think about video as well as influencer strategy. Why don't you get us your point of view on that whole story?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nicholas. I appreciate that intro and throwing to me, because I think that disconnect that you were talking about between what the brands and influencers want is a very real challenge. And it's something that some brands have been able to navigate by bringing the creators into the brand earlier in the storytelling and content creation process. So last week, I spoke with Ninja, the kitchen appliance brand that's part of Shark Ninja, huge brand, publicly traded company that's been doing really well, that has, over $500 million in their market budget. So we are not talking about a startup here. We are talking about a well-resourced company. But I spoke with them about how they bring in creators even before their product launches, as much as 6 to 9 months in advance. When I spoke to them, they had creators in their test kitchen, working on a top secret product launch for the fall. And basically, allows Ninja to understand how creators are going to interact with their product and what story they can tell there. Ninja CMO Caitlin Hebert has been with the company a really long time, and she knows that one of Ninja's biggest selling points is that the products sort of have some innovation to it, right? It's coming up with something that you didn't know you could even do in your own kitchen. Like the Ninja Creamy, their ice cream maker is huge right now. So if you look at the social videos of the Ninja Creamy, it's all that TikTok style video for the most part, where someone is showing you how to use the product. It's hands. Yeah, it's really, really tangible of here's the product and here's how it works. I feel like that's something that creators will naturally do. And Ninja has now positioned their marketing to really fit with that trend. The other thing about this that I think is really interesting is they're willing to also use UGC. I think that's huge for brands, finding what's already working and resonating with audiences, and then figuring out how to work that into your own, owned marketing or paid campaigns. But yeah, happy to talk more about this. I think they have a really interesting strategy, and it just goes to show you that, if you have resources and time, you can make beautiful things happen. I think that era of cheap, easy, and effective is over. But if you're willing to put resources behind it, you can make great things happen.
Absolutely love that, Matt. What is your thought on the idea?
I'd love to know, Melissa, from your point of view. So this is kind of the timeline. Brands engage with influencers. They send them the product. They agree to promote the brand through their social followers, through TikTok Shop or whatever platform they're on, and they get paid either a flat fee or they get paid by a commission base of what they sell. What information do those influencers get from the brands other than the product itself and maybe the short description of the product about how the brand wants it marketed? Because I think that was the point of this article, that everyone rushes to get samples to the influencer so they could create a creative video on the product. But at QVC and HSN, we have what's called blueprints. And we actually give detailed explanations to the guest, who is basically our influencer, on everything to say and do in how the brand wants the product sold. And I wonder if that is a missing element with influencers and brands.
It's a great observation. I think this is an annoying answer, but it's dependent. It's dependent on the brand. I know there are brands out there that put briefings together for their influencers and really try to bring them into the fold. I've even heard of brands having kickoff calls, or kickoff Zoom meetings or kick off in-person pop-ups when they have influencers to start a campaign. And that breeds this great trust. And I think it breeds this great relationship of we're all in this together and we all want to see this succeed. So that I would say is on the higher end of how they do it. And I think Ninja's strategy in bringing creators even before R&D is done, even before the product is boxed and ready to go, is even further on that. On the other side of the coin, yeah, are there brands out there that send people a PR box and expect great content in return? Absolutely. But I think if you think that's going to change the game of your sales, you're not putting in what you're expecting to get out in some ways.
All right. Well, that's quite an interesting take. Before we move to the shout out, I just want to remind everyone that, if we look at what China is doing, this is the kind of thing where the creator has like hundreds and thousands of cameras in front of them and just found that video and they found it was funny. So creator economy is working in various places of the country, and it doesn't mean there's a one true solution for every places. And just this is a good interesting example of like that's how they make it work for them. We make it work in a different way. But I think it's really fascinating to see this whole evolution of social commerce and how people are working together. So before we go and end the show, Matt, I know Melissa, you have a shout out. So why don't you tell us what you're working on, or like what's the shout out about?
Yeah, thank you so much. So as I said, I'm a senior reporter with modernretail.co. Next week, I'll have a couple of stories coming out, one looking at sort of the consumer sentiment around Easter spending, big holiday here in the US for a lot of people, and one that is connected to a lot of retail activity. So talking to some legacy brands in the space and seeing how they're faring. I've also got something coming up that's really interesting on the intellectual property front. I can't really say more, but I'm really excited to be a legal eagle on this one and talk about how a brand is protecting and wielding its intellectual property. You can follow all of our coverage at modernretail.co. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Insta, and you can sign up for a membership. You can sign up for newsletters around marketplaces, around brands, whatever your focus in the retail world is.
Amazing. So if you want to check out Modern Retail, actually you have free article for free every month that you can read. So it's always a good thing to start to get started. Matt, it's been a great show. I think we will see you again next Friday. We are
Excellent.
Here on LinkedIn every Friday, as well as on Facebook and on all the social media platform. Thank you, Laura, for your little comment. Thanks everyone for being here. We love you having here. We are here, as I say, every Friday on LinkedIn, but we also on YouTube, on Spotify. If you like the show, please comment, share with your friend, tell us how we can improve. And if you're like someone very interesting, if you just want to sell your product, there's no need to reach out to us. But if you have a genuine story about video commerce, please reach out to us. We would love to have you on the pod. As everyone, thanks, and we will see you next Friday.
Bye-bye.
What a hopeful